Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street and the small business lenders to help it grow. Chuck Evans, it's been a while. You're Executive Vice President with Windsor Advantage, LSP.
Bob, I miss you and Katie. Thank you. It's good to be back.
Well, it's good to have you back. I understand you and I are personally keeping all the doctors' kids in college with our medical bills.
That's right.
But, I'm glad to say you're looking good and you're fine.
Thank you. I am. I thought I had the big COVID-19, but it was a false alarm. So that's
come on, Chuck. If you're gonna get sick, you might as well, it's got to be sexy.
Oh, my wife was looking for insurance policies when I went in.
Oh well, yeah. And Katie, undisclosed, out of Washington State. Katie, thank you. Are you getting all settled in your new digs?
Yeah, I'm getting there. It's, there's of course some boxes that still have not materialized. I'm not sure where they ended up, but we're getting settled.
You'll find them years later. It's great. Hey, we got a bunch of questions. Please, you can send us questions. Joseph at ColemanReport.com. Joseph, are we going to go right to our correction, or are we going to do polls first?
Let's do the polls. We'll do the polls.
There's a certificate. August 26th. We are one more week, and we get into September, and we get this get over. I think we all want to get to 2021 as quickly as possible. Hey, are you planning on using a loan service provider to calculate PPP forgiveness? We were talking about this yesterday, Chuck, and it is my understanding, and I want you to clarify it, that it's the lender who makes the final determination on that PPP forgiveness numbers. I just want to verify that with you.
That's correct. There's certainly certifications from the borrower, but the lender does that absolutely. If you outsource this to somebody, it's still your responsibility.
Yeah, but it's not. I mean, the lender isn't just rubber stamping and sending it to SBA.
No. And the other fact that with Congress reconvening, we've recommended to our clients that they may want to wait a little bit.
Oh yeah. That is industry standard because we don't know.
Yeah,
we're waiting for that. But 1 in 5, I think that's probably tracks where we are as an industry. That's about right. About 20% of lenders use LSP for some type of backroom function.
And it's interesting, Bob, because the half dozen of us that have been in this industry of any size helped our clients, but there's a lot of new players that have come up to help with PPP. It's been very interesting as to who they are.
Yeah,
so there's a number of options now.
And my 2 comments on that. Number 1, I hope the new lenders have enough of a positive experience. They utilize the SBA programs. It's great for Main Street.
That's our hope.
Yeah, and number 2, it's great for Main Street. It's I'm not going to Monday morning quarterback, but in terms of the process of getting these PPP funds out, that worked. I mean, we got that money out.
I think we as an industry need to make sure that these new, what do we go from 1150 in lenders 3 years ago to 5,500? We need to make sure that they know and are comfortable with the regular program should they elect to do it.
Oh,
that's a challenge for all of us. Yep.
Yeah, and over 5 million loans. I mean, that's a lot of jobs that have been saved. So congratulations.
For sure.
Number 2, can the lender receive funds from SBA in excess of the guaranteed loan amount? What I'm getting at here is we have $1 million loan with a 75% guarantee. So we have $750,000 guarantee. Are there any circumstances the lender can get a check larger than $750,000?
Yes. Of
What do you think, Chuck?
Care and preservation of collateral. That's one thing. You're making sure that the collateral's intact. You're going to have litigation expenses, and certainly you have to have the SBA's buy-in in certain cases. But they're going to work with you, and it's you're going to get your guaranteed amount of the loss. That's the net loss plus the expenses. So
Remember when you go into liquidation? Yeah, when you go into a liquidation scenario, SBA is your partner. It's 75-25. They're going to participate. We're going to talk about this OIG case study, and they actually did receive a check for higher than the guarantee amount. Of course, that raises a whole other set of issues in terms of collateral, which we're not going to talk about. But you can you can add in those care and preservation expenses. In fact, SBA demands that you do that.
PPC costs, yep.
Yeah, and don't be afraid. We can force place, not force place, but keep life insurance premiums up to date, winterize property, higher security, board up windows, and all that. And SBA is your partner. Number three.
Don't start writing the checks until you get their buy-in, though.
I thank you for that, Chuck. Yeah, you definitely, they're your partner, and since they're the majority partner, they want to sign off on it. Now, from what I understand, it's not pro forma. They're going to look at it, but they'd much rather be in a situation where you're coming to them and say, hey, this is what we want to do, as opposed to writing checks. Because I'm sure, Chuck, you've seen a lot of instances, and I know where the lenders have done that, and they don't get those expenses covered.
Well, the legal fees when they get over $10,000, that can be quick. So, yep.
Yeah, and SBA is going to approve them. I mean, as long as it's reasonable.
Sure. Yep, they are.
Finally, did the outage yesterday affect you? All right, 1/3, 2/3. Did it affect you, Chuck?
No, well, on E-Tran, certainly it's going to slow the process down, but there's nothing that can't wait a day. At least
Katie, are we back online now, Katie?
I believe so. I think you'd have to ask our audience, though, because I haven't obviously been in there to see.
And well, Zoom went down yesterday, too, or the day before. That was probably a bigger thing since we're all on Zoom.
I know. And the hits keep on coming. Yeah, we're going to do online training for all our kids and whatever. Oh, it doesn't work. Hey, let's talk about this denial guarantee. This came out from the Inspector General. Now, we did this to shorten the headline. The OIG does not issue denials. I want to be very clear about that.
Yep.
We recommend denials. So just clarify that. Anyway, Katie, you did a little reading on this. What did you find out?
So in this case, we've seen this a lot with OIG reports. Again, a lender did not adequately verify a cash injection. In this particular case, the borrower was required to inject $384,000, a little over that, in fact, into, and also $35,000 for a closing cost. They supported $8,500 of it, but the rest of it was not supported in the documents. There was something about a attorney, and the check was somewhere in there, but it wasn't supported. And of course, we need a copy of the check or wire transfer and statements from the accounts showing that the money was transferred.
It is, the OIG report is in your dashboard. You can Google it, SBA OIG 20-18. They have them all listed there. Chuck, in my opinion, some of the lender's mistakes have just been totally egregious. This one, yeah, the lender made some mistakes, but I don't think it rose to the level of some of this other stuff.
Yeah, some of the other ones that we've read about have been very egregious. I think you've raised the point multiple times. I don't know when this loan was made, but certainly the last 2 years, we know this is coming. We know that credit elsewhere is going to be an issue. Equity injection verification is going to be an issue. We need to go to the nth degree to make sure that those kinds of things the lender's doing today. Now, the ones that you've made 2 years ago, yeah, can you go back and shore it up? But it's coming. I mean, they said Congress has mandated oversight. Office of Inspector General's doing it, and we shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with writing memos to file.
No,
you're certainly
there
not
are
going to
things that you can do post-closing to clean up your files and make sure. There truly are.
Anything, but say, hey, we went through and we got this form dated such and such. SBA is going to be much more receptive to that than you submitting a file and who needs a 159?
On a similar note, Bob, we had a lender come to us because they had their first desktop review, and they were a little worried because it was their first one. But basically, my experience has been if you do things ahead of time and you find out you've made mistakes and you fess up to those mistakes and you
Yes.
try to do your best, you get almost a free pass.
Yeah,
Or
you
at least
have
for
to.
the-
Yes,
yeah.
he's very clear. Don't, if we're missing, if we're out of position on a deed of trust, we're supposed to be in second and we're in third, disclose it, tell them, and then you come up with the recommendation of how much should the repair be. Perhaps there's very little equity. You can say, hey, yeah, we screwed up. We're in third position, but it doesn't affect us. Or we think the repair based on legal fees and I'd say is X amount of dollars. And as Chuck said, you're going to be, SBA wants that full disclosure from the lender as opposed to them going through and because once you lose your credibility, then they're going to tear that thing apart with a fine tooth comb.
And if you listen to Susan Strike, Reddy Ledford, they're looking for systemic problems. They're
Right.
not looking for the one-off. So if it's a one-off, clean it up and no harm, no foul. But certainly the systemic problems are the ones that they're going to go after.
I want to talk about a topic that we had yesterday where I caused Paul and David some insomnia about the wet signatures, and I'm going to say we're both right. In the notice, which is attached there, it says you can do a scan, but you need to follow up with that scan with a wet signature. However, if you in the SOP, if you use DocuSign or some other type of electronic signature, you're okay. The notice is specific for scanned signatures. All right.
If you think about it, this was a fire drill where we're getting money out the door and scanned signatures. It was nice they allowed that, but the fact that you have to go back and get wet signatures makes sense, unless you did use DocuSign.
But if it's DocuSign, you don't.
Yep. Good.
Paul and David get a good night's sleep tonight. We're fine with that. Let's see. A question from Susan. Does the PPP loan count towards the total SBA guarantee exposure, Chuck?
I don't think so, because this was something that was done in conjunction with the Treasury and the SBA. So this is a different animal, and it shouldn't have anything to do with your SBA guarantee exposure.
One of the things we're going to start doing is giving shout-outs and do some positive news. This is a great article in blacknews.com about a partnership with CDC Small Business out of San Diego. And
great organization. Yep.
Oh, Kurt does a wonderful job. And they're talking about funding for Black-owned businesses and the amount of funds on there. And that is, we all read the paper, and that is certainly something that needs to be
highlighted.
Supported. Yeah, highlighted, supported. These communities need a lot of help, and I know there's opportunity zones. And I think, Katie, I'll let you jump in here. And this is really a bipartisan issue as well. At both sides of the aisle want to see veterans, minorities, and rural America to be supported.
Right, you are seeing that, and just in the past couple of hearings that I've listened in on, both sides of the aisle are really talking about how can we support especially minorities, especially these underserved areas. It's just a big issue right now, and they all want to address it. Yeah,
and CDC is what we call a mission-based lender. So they want to do these types of loans. The last 4 decades, they've provided funding for 12,000 small business owners, $21 billion in financing, which helps create and preserve more than 200,000 jobs. So good for this organization.
Tell me if I'm wrong, but we also allocated, $10 billion to CDFIs in the PPP program? And that segment of our industry serves a lot of the minorities. So it was encouraging to see that kind of segregated funding, and I hope we see more of that.
Yeah, all right, I'm going to go down a history lesson. How one of the functions with SBA was after the Detroit riots in 1968, and SBA made the decision to dump money into rebuilding that city. And that was one of the main functions of SBA. A lot of you aren't old enough to remember those. Those are difficult times as well. But there were programs in place to support minority communities. And obviously back then, the world was a lot more isolated. So if your local grocery store went down, we didn't have the huge Walmarts and Costco's and things where people could go. If you lost your community grocery store, you were out of luck. So anyway,
Yeah, and in our industry, there's organizations that cross kind of boundaries. The certified development companies that got into Community Advantage now belong to Opportunity Finance Network, who serves the CDFIs. So there's a group of us in our industry that cross those boundaries. They're not just NADCO members or not just NAGL members. They're participating in those mission-based focused organizations, which is pretty neat.
And we always need to remember there's a lot of the segment of our communities that live paycheck to paycheck. Yep. And it's nice to be able to go to your local grocery store and have a real store as opposed to 10 liquor stores on down the old Main Street. Very good. Lance had a family emergency, so we are actually putting off the 159 webinar until tomorrow. We, of course, will be happy to take care of registration. Just send an email to Joseph on that.
Bob, that should be exciting. That's a really good webinar coming up because it's such a gray area. It really is. And when the interim finance rule came out, that brought some clarity. Then they rescinded it, and so I'm eager to hear.
Well, this is at the top of the Inspector General, as we've seen. Anytime the bar is writing checks to other people, SBA wants to, at a minimum, know about that and to follow the rules for that. Hey, Chuck, it's so good to see you. I'm glad you,
good to see you guys.
Glad you and I are feeling well.
Thank you, Katie. Thanks, Bob.
And thank you for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a great day.
Thank you.